So thank you for joining us for our first Congressional Inaugural Yoga Day, Meditation and Mindfulness. My name is Petra Starke, and I started a company called SweatNGlow, which is a global brand and a community. We are creating a community of like-minded people who have an interest or want to learn about yoga, and in our case specifically hot yoga, but some of my colleagues will cover why heat is or isn't important. So any kind of yoga you can find in your life, any kind of movement you can find in your life is very, very important. We sort of pick as a theme, how much time will it take to get to the present moment? Because my entire life, I have been living in the future. I grew up in really communist Czechoslovakia. Now I'm dating myself and I'm giving away my age, and I grew up behind the Iron Curtain. And so through my childhood, I was dreaming about open world and all these cities, New York, London, Vienna, and I wanted to go and see them. And then I got to the United States, I went to law school, and then I wanted to have this amazing job, and I wanted to win a case because I became a lawyer, and I wanted to be a Georgetown law professor, and so I had all of these goals. And I never really paused and stopped and lived in the present moment. I was rushing somewhere and life was passing me by. And then one day, I found my way to a hot yoga studio in DuPont Circle. And at that time, I was an avid runner, and I had a lot of running injuries because I worked very, very long hours, and I slept maybe 4 hours, and then I thought it's really smart to run 6 miles, 10 miles, do a marathon, do a triathlon, and so I was injured all the time, and I've always been very lean, very healthy, exercising, and nobody could figure out why it is that I'm getting injured, and it's because I didn't get enough rest, and I was not really mindful of mindfulness, and I never appreciated present moment, and I never paused. So basically today, I'm bringing you an amazing group of speakers who we will all talk to you about mindfulness, benefits of yoga, being an advocate for yourself, being a health advocate, and making sure that basically meditation, that you can love yourself and you can create enough space for yourself, because we're all part of a greater community, and the community starts from yourself. Everything we do impacts another person and it impacts our community, but if we don't take care of ourselves, our community will not function well. And so, I know everybody in this building has very, very busy lives. My journey took me to work for President Obama in the White House, and I taught spinning, I taught yoga, I did a lot of exercises, and I worked basically from 8 a.m. to 10:30, 11 p.m. And just before I started working for President Obama, I became a mother, and I had a child who was 6 weeks old when I went to the White House. And I have the luxury of the fact that my husband is a retired NFL player, so he has never really had a traditional job where he has to go somewhere 9 to 5. So he could become really like the mom. And when I worked at the White House, because of all the security requirements, which are a little bit more stringent than even you guys have right now, I would have to get a clearance for my son and my husband each time I had to breastfeed, and the whole White House complex had one breastfeeding room, and you had to sign up, and you had to plan your time, and meetings happen, life happens, you can't keep your slot. So my husband would drive by in the car, I ran out of the White House, and I was breastfeeding in the car. So even today, when I come back to DC, a lot of the Secret Service agents still say hello to me because they remember I was the crazy woman who was running in the car and breastfeeding in the car. And so life happens, and we have to make it work, and we have to make time for ourselves. What is really important is that you set your personal goals that are realistic, achievable, measurable, and that basically are fail-proof. Because, you know, if you tell yourself, okay, well, I should exercise an hour, or I should do yoga for an hour, and then I should do this long for meditation, if your goals are unrealistic, basically you create more harm for yourself than good, because then you're beating yourself all day that you didn't do it, and believe it or not, your body creates a lot of inflammation because you have a lot of anxiety, you have guilt, and then you start making excuses why you cannot really do that. So in order to win in life, you have to set goals that are very realistic, that you can keep up with, and that they are incremental. And so after this panel, I will be teaching a yoga class, but I can tell you that after every yoga class that I do, I'm working always on one posture. And so I do 5 little things. It takes me 30 seconds to a minute, but over the course of 15 years, I see a huge improvement. So life is a journey, yoga is a journey, and finding yourself really is a journey. And so I think you really, really need to set very small goals and like build on them. Don't set huge goals and then you will fail, and that will not enrich your life. So, you know, yoga, mindfulness, movement is very important, but I also think honesty in fitness and wellness is very important, and most people will tell you, most people in my position will tell you like, oh, do SweatNGlow yoga. Don't run, don't do anything else, just do SweatNGlow yoga. Then secretly they go to the gym, they have a personal trainer, and you know, they are doing all those things that they told you you shouldn't do, because life is really also about balance. So you have to be very, very balanced, and the older you get, the more you need a little bit of cardio, a little bit of weight training, and as well as yoga, stretching for your flexibility. So basically, I advocate really for people having well-rounded approach to fitness, wellness, and mindfulness. And I will tell you a secret, you don't have to move at all. If you get your nutrition right, you will still get the body you want, assuming what you're going for is body. If you want mental clarity, well-being, I think you have to incorporate yoga and meditation, because you just don't get that from the gym. You know, I know from my own experience, if I skip a yoga class, I am more irritable, more agitated, I am unfocused, and things that normally wouldn't make me angry, they do, because like there is something about yoga, meditation, moving meditation, that takes the edge off, and that you will really feel tangible benefits. So besides me, our speakers today are Mark McDonald over there. Mark lives in my watch. We're connected through our activity levels, because Mark is an amazing person who has a great story, and he is really the nutritional expert, I would say, in the world, because what he created, anybody can do. I do it, and I travel over 50% of the time, and I follow Mark's advice probably 50 to 75%, and my body has transformed. That people in this room who have seen me and known me for a long time, they notice that. So, you know, nutrition is 80%, exercise, yoga, meditation is 20%. But if you, well, I don't know, even if you probably had perfect nutrition as you age, it would still catch up with you if you never exercised and never moved. Then we also have Jeff Chen over here. So Jeff Chen is a studio owner. He owns 5 of our studios in Texas. And Jeff retired from finance and just devoted his whole life to yoga, but also to starting a 501c3 nonprofit, Pure Action now. It used to be called Yoga is Medicine, and they worked with physicians, MDs, PhDs who created these amazing studies about the empirical evidence of what yoga can do for you, from cardiovascular point, from helping people deal with depression, anxiety, opioids, whatever it is, addictions, because in the yoga community, especially in the hot yoga community, we see a lot of people who were active addicts because it's a part of your brain that's programmed a certain way after, well, you're probably predisposed to addiction, but once you get really into addiction, you have to substitute one addiction with another addiction. So we see these people who come religiously every day because otherwise they will go to a bar. And they choose to go to yoga, you know, and they keep journals and they will tell you how many classes they have done and all this kind of stuff. And then the next panelist is Alejandro Valverde, who is my dear friend. We work together in the White House, and she has an amazing personal journey. I will let her cover that. And she is really dedicated her life to advocating for women's health, women's rights, and just making sure that people, you know, can access programs and tools that are available to them. And then our last panelist is Sister Jana, who is the meditation queen in the room. Like I told her, I'm like, I'm not evolved enough as a human being, because every time I sit and try to meditate, my mind starts running, and so the only way I can meditate is through active meditation. But Sister Jana promised me she's gonna change that. So now I will be evolved. I will evolve to a higher state of being. And Sister Jana is representing the Love Button movement, and John over there, John Marino, he is the executive director of Love Button, and I always probably butcher their story, but basically what I'm trying to explain it to people is that you have to start loving yourself, which is sort of how I also started today. If you don't love yourself, you can love others, and you can really become a well-functioning member of our society. This is like super oversimplified, but that's what I explained to people.
I got some cards here too we can give out.
Yes, and John has like cards, and we're wearing the love buttons. I think mine is on the sweatshirt. I'm sure he has a love button for everybody. And basically, the Love Button nonprofit was created by Dr. Siddiqui and his wife, Sherry Sammy, in LA, where I am from. And Dr. Siddiqui was a Western doctor who suffered from cancer, so he left medical school and he went and studied with all of the healers of the world, not all probably, but many, and he learned all of these techniques. So when you go to Dr. Siddiqui, he does kind of like an overall evaluation of your body, and he tells you, you know, he will give you like IVs and specific vitamins for you, and a lot of his belief, again, grossly oversimplified, is that most of our illnesses are caused by trauma. And as a society, just how I was living in the future, we usually don't deal with our trauma. We like forget about it. We shove it in the back of our head and we just go on with our life. And at some point you have so much trauma in you that you get cancer, you get any kind of disease, because the body is trying to stop you, like shake you up and make you deal with that. And so he is big on sort of also bridging psychology and like medicine together. And you know, when we're all talking about yoga and Dr. Siddiqui's approach, and he wrote a book called Clarity Cleanse that I highly recommend. And Mark wrote a book, Body Confidence, which is my favorite book I bring everywhere. And then he wrote a book, Why Kids Make Us Fat. You guys are too young, but anybody who has a child immediately knows the content of that book. And every time I see my son, I tell him, this is why kids make us fat. When he makes me go to McDonald's for the Happy Meal, you know, because he wants the toy, and then mom feels guilty and eats all the French fries. And the more French fries you eat, the more French fries you need, because they have sugar in them. I didn't know that, but when McDonald's fries French fries, they add sugar. That's why they taste differently. Yeah. I know that from the farmers actually in Washington State. I didn't know that before. So you get really actively addicted to sugar anytime you eat McDonald's French fries. And so, you know, we're here today and we want to make sure that when you leave, if you don't leave with anything else, all of us will be talking